Ricky
dogmatic
in
views
the Virgin Islands.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Ricky.
Yes, a couple of weeks ago, someone called about a Slate magazine interview in which Richard Dawkins supposedly minimized child sexual abuse, and I'd like to come to Professor Dawkins' defense.
Okay.
I haven't seen that interview, but Dawkins did address this issue on a podcast of the Thinking Atheist. And he said that to make a big deal out of his own childhood experience would be to minimize the experience of other children who were severely traumatized.
By child abuse?
Yeah, I remember, Russell, you said that Dawkins is free to speak from his own experience.
Right.
And that's exactly what he did. And I think people have been reading this wrong. The fact is he wasn't traumatized by his experience, and I think it's reading too much into his memoirs to think that he is speaking for all abuse victims.
Well, I mean, it's not necessarily anything to do with us, but I mean, it's. I do believe that it is when you're a public figure like that, you are in the position of having sometimes to be very, very careful about some things you say, and I think that Dawkins, like a great many other public figures, has occasionally maybe said things off the cuff that, and sometimes he has said things that were extremely. And perhaps not deliberately insensitive, but came from a position of real ignorance on a subject. Sometimes he gets misinterpreted. Sometimes I think he is criticized in a valid way. Being a prominent public figure, and we need to be very careful about this in atheism, doesn't mean that your views are above criticism. It doesn't mean that, especially as atheists, we need to be very, very careful not to put people, including very prominent and respected people, on pedestals, and that I think can. When people have expressed really, really serious disappointment in some things that, for example, Dawkins or maybe Hitchens has said in the past, or that they really disagree with, sometimes I think the severity of their disappointment in him may have come from, mistakenly perhaps putting that person on a pedestal, and then when they reveal themselves to have human foibles, they really lash out at that, and I see Dawkins as being like anyone else. He said some things that I think have been very educational for me. I've learned a great deal about biology and evolution from him. I certainly do not disagree with him on all social issues. Sometimes I think he takes some more flack than he deserves on charges of, for example, Islamophobia. But at the same time, I think that he has made some very offensive and inappropriate comments of a sexist nature. So, people can have right ideas, wrong ideas, no matter how famous or well-versed they are in their field.
Yeah. Let me say this, though. Dawkins' original comment was kind of clumsily worded and definitely lent the impression that he was minimizing the problems of child abuse. But I'm seeing that he has since, like you're saying, come out on this other show and specifically clarified what he was talking about and apologized for it. So I think that whether or not he said something that sounded dumb at the time, I'm a guy who respects the value of a good and sincere apology and clarification. And I think, and I'm going to read what Dawkins said right here later. He said, if I'm wrong about any particular individual, if any of my companions really was traumatized by the abuse long after it happened, if perhaps it happened many times and amounted to more than the single disagreeable but brief fondling that I endured, I apologize. I don't know, that's kind of a middle of the road, I'm sorry if you were offended, but at the same time, I appreciate that that he made a point to come out and say, yeah, there are victims of sexual abuse who should not be minimized. So to the extent that he's fixed the record on that, go Dawkins. Okay?
Yeah, I think so too. And as far as worshiping people, as part of growing up, I learned from experience that worshiping anyone other than Jesus was bound to end in disillusionment, and then Jesus disillusioned me. So,
Yeah, that's a pretty hard one to come back
Well,
from,
then
right?
they had it all right except one.
yeah, and Adam W. addressed this issue on Free Thought blog, so if people might want to take a look at that.
Yeah, Adam Wingard, he's a good guy.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's
Wingard,
it.
I think
Bye.
that's
All
his
right.
name, Wingard.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye.
It is Wingard, right?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't
he's-
follow him. Sorry, Adam.